Welcome to Fishing for Bees. This is my YouTube channel on swarm catching and beekeeping. If you're new to the channel, a little bit about us is we've never purchased bees, we've never split a colony, we've never bought a queen. Swarm catches just keep replenishing the minimal losses that we have year after year. This is our swarm catches from this year, except this one. And in the past, we've had so many bees come in the spring because I only want a certain amount in the production yard that I've given away 10 frame colonies in this yard right here. So if any of that interests you, please like and subscribe. You might be looking at one of the colonies you get early in the spring, free. So today we're going to finish up winterizing everything. We have a video on this one with a Hive Alive fondant hack. If you're interested, check it out. The production yard is winterized, but they do not have any fondant on them yet. So basically they have quilt boxes and painter's tape. And we're going to finish that up in this yard. The only difference is that in this yard, because they were not fed, some of them are running a little bit light. We have one down there that's already done that we're going to take a peek at in this video to see how they're doing with the fondant. There's a video on that if you want to check it out. You want everything ready to go. So we want our quilt box nearby and ready with the top entrance blocked, because they will at certain times of the year pour out on you and be very, very pissed off. If you leave that upper entrance open and you're fiddling and you're working, that could be the escape route that they have to come and get you, or get your wife that's filming. So this one is packed. You can always tell how a colony's doing by the top. So we're just going to lightly try and persuade them down because we need to clear some space for the fondant. I'm not inspecting. They're not going to be happy, I can tell by the roar right now. I'm not inspecting. I mean, they're not happy, right? So let's disturb them as little as possible. They're better than the other one. Normally I like to put this so that the open end, basically this is just a Hive Alive fondant cut down. I like to put it so the open end is closest to where you see the most activity and the most bees. On this one, it looks strong from left to right, so we're just going to put it on like that. Grab our quilt box, make sure the entrance is in the right direction. These quilt boxes have vents and screens, but you want to make sure that your bedding material is below the vent. Not so deep that this is completely full and then you're plugging up your vents and you're not getting the airflow. The airflow for these to work is really important. You have air coming in the front, air going, moist air hitting this bedding material. This bedding material is insulating and going to absorb that moisture so it doesn't rain down on them. And then the finishing part of these vents on the side, so you got the air coming through and out, coming through and out. Absorbing moisture so it doesn't rain down on your bees. Wet bees are dead bees. That's it. It's as simple as that. The bees cannot survive if they're soaking wet. We're going to bang off these bees right at the entrance. You don't want any bees up here in the top. There's no way for them to get in the colony. You got a notch on these too, which is another vent. Lid goes on top. I've seen people make the mistake where they put the lid below their quilt box or whatever their moisture system is. That's not the way you want it. We're going to put our lid on. I'm actually going to close that vent in the back for now. It's easier to tape these up with the painter's tape with a little bit of weight on them. Just show you one real quick. We have another video on it. The painter's tape, so I broke the Propolis seal of that inner cover. And this is gappy, and they're not going to reseal it. Even if you don't use quilt boxes, if you break the seal anywhere on these boxes doing inspections or whatever, late in the season, and it's usually dependent on temperatures. I put the quilt boxes on when it's consistently in the 50s during the day. So take that as the temperature range. Again, if it's 50s consistently during the day, and I would even say low 60s consistently during the day, they stop with the propolis sealing of these. And if you've broke it in that temperature range, and they're not going to get back to it likely and reseal it up, and you just made a drafty box. With anything, things when they're cold, they contract. Things when they're warm, they expand, right? So when they're in the summer, they're expanding. Those seams are meeting better than they are in the cold. When this wood gets cold and everything starts to contract, you have seams. So that's it on my preaching about painter's tape. It's a super easy insurance policy, and your bees will appreciate it. It eliminates the draft that you created by breaking that propolis seal. So we're going to roll through these real quick. We're basically just going to show you how the colonies are on the inside. In case anybody's curious how our swarm catches are doing. And with some creative editing, we'll make this video shorter. So no bees are up here, so I had to ask Elena if there was activity at the door, because that's a little concerning considering the other one. But you have to remember, the bees should be in the bottom box. They shouldn't be in the top box at this point. They should be living and residing in the bottom box. Interesting, we got, I saw one ant. So again, in my other videos, we've talked about space management and how important it is. That's why this other one to my left is broke down. Got one bee that I just don't want to crush with the fondant. So there's activity at the door. There's bees up here. The weight is pretty good. They got their weight up better than some of the other ones. We got some bees up here. So we're going to keep rolling, but I want to mention, if there's something you see, you got a question, please ask me. I will say that this video is transparent. We show you it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes and the failures. Most likely your question's probably answered in another video, so check them out. I like having a channel that is transparent and showing you all the aspects of beekeeping and swarm catching. Not much to see up here. This one is lighter. Weight, what I would say, is not as good. But they're supposed to be living in that bottom box right now. So we'll see what happens. So it looks pretty good. We're going to tape them all at the end. We're not going to bother showing you that. We already showed you once. This one was a very, very weak colony. As I said, we have a video on it. This one was 5/5, so it was just like these. 5/5 was super weak. The top was drawn out horrible. Their chances for success with all that space was minimal. So I put a fondant on here the other day, and they're not doing much with it. The weights were terrible. This one will probably become my favorite colony and the one I babysit the most, because it is the worst off. I will say right now, this one's not looking good for surviving the winter. But these type of situations that you get in when a colony perishes and it's a swarm catch is way different than when you've bought it for $225. That's one of the things that I found about catching swarms that's beneficial for me, is those hard decisions on whether to shake out a colony. They're easy. There's no money involved in this. This was a free swarm. I gave them the best chance I could if they don't make it, and then I just move on and worry about the other colonies. Holy moly, look at this. So each colony is different as far as their behavior. Some, they don't propolis anything, but man, I have not seen a colony like this ever. This is a colony to monitor, because there's a lot of indications that propolis is good for combating viruses and bacteria, and it's very beneficial to them. It's been bred out of bees commercially because it makes a mess. But it may be more beneficial than originally thought and more important for the bees and less of a nuisance when it comes to health. So this is crazy. I've never seen a colony behave like this. I might have to go back and look and see where this one was caught, because this is just wild. Check the weight. I would say it's the heaviest one out of all of them, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a fondant anyways. Elena asked about the front entrances, so I'll go ahead and talk about them. They're just a secondary entrance, you know, when you got snow on the ground and they get that one nice day to do a cleansing flight. I find that it's nice to provide them with a second entrance. I'm not going to open them just yet. Also, I have the option of doing whatever I want with them. You know, the disc dictates what you're doing, so I can vent them. I don't ever use queen excluder. I have the entrances if I need them, and if I don't need them, then they're closed. But you'll see in the winter, a lot of cleansing flights happen outside of that entrance. Good amount of bees, but you know, just look at the difference. The same amount of bees are up here as in the other one. No propolis. So every bee colony is different. The genetics are different. That's one of the other things I enjoy about swarms. This is what's important about moisture control. You see these little puddles of moisture? This should be tilted more forward to get that flowing out the front door. If it's excessive, it's going to rain down on your bees and it's going to kill them. So moisture control, it's important. It's just as important as going into winter with low mite counts and resources, if you ask me. And those three things are way more important than trying to generate heat in your colony. I don't wrap our colonies anymore. Elena and I used to wrap them in the beginning and it was kind of a pain. We don't do that anymore because I believe rather than putting tar paper on here with an airspace between the tar paper and the boxes, which isn't transferring that heat from the sun, if that makes sense, I find no tar paper in dark boxes. The sun hits it, it transfers the heat into the colony. I don't wrap them. I don't try and generate artificial heat for them. None of that stuff. A living colony will generate the heat that it needs. Quilt boxes retain some of the heat and they handle the moisture. So there you go. We're going to painters tape them up. We're going to put rocks on all of them. I'm grateful that this one didn't go blowing over. We had some wind the other day and it got overlooked that I didn't put rocks on them. So I think it looks pretty good. Looking good in this yard. Thanks for coming along. I hope your bees are well.